Hello, everyone. You're listening to Heart Healing Conversations with Dawn and Janna. Every week, we pull back the curtain on the things that weigh us down and explore the tools that lift us up. From vulnerable stories to practical wisdom, we're diving deep into what it means to live wholeheartedly. Let's get into today's conversation. Hey, Dawn, how is it going this week?
Hi, Janna. Things are going good. It feels a little bit calmer this week, at least in my life. But you and I were having a conversation a few minutes ago about the things that all of us engage in to feel better when we don't have tools. And sometimes when we do have tools, but we want to numb ourselves sometimes when we're experiencing emotional pain. We all do it. And so you and I were having this conversation about what we call STERBs, short-term energy relieving behaviors. So I want to continue that conversation with our listeners because I think it's so important. And one of the most important things is I want to tell people whatever it is that you engage in to numb yourself, I ask that you be gentle with yourself because we do the best that we can with wherever we are in life, with whatever tools we have. And once we realize that we're doing something to numb ourselves, we have that choice. We have that realization, oh, yeah, I'm not feeling good. And so I'm using alcohol or whatever it is to feel better. But if I want to make a different choice, I can.
That's so true. I know in my deepest times, I first didn't recognize that I was using things kind of to help as coping mechanisms to get through the pain, to not feel the pain, to put it off so nobody else knew I had any kind of pain. But it became very apparent to me once I started learning about these habits just how important they were in my survival at the time too. Like you said, having grace with ourselves, it was kind of a survival tool, and this is how I got through, whether it was healthy or not. It did help me get through onto this next phase, and I'm grateful that I had that to get me through. But then looking back at what I did, whether it be, scrolling through social media too much or shopping, especially on Amazon, even like you said, alcohol, those simple things not only just numb the feeling, take away the pain, they work. They give us that little jolt that we're looking for to help us feel better. And so we feel that we don't have to worry about whatever was bothering us anymore because, hey, I feel a little bit better. But then, that fades pretty quickly. And so we
Yeah.
move to it again or move to another one and try something else to continue trying to get that feel good feeling back. And that's kind of what makes those STERBs so dangerous is that they
Mhm.
do work for us.
Yeah, that's true. Short term, they work. Long term, they do not. And we end up in oftentimes a scary place. I mean, that's where addictions start.
Mhm.
It's not that someone just likes to drink or likes to smoke or use drugs or overeat. There's some emotional pain that they're trying to numb because they don't want to feel bad anymore and they don't know the best way to get themselves out of that situation. And so I love asking people to look back at their life to some of the most painful times and identify those STERBs that they used. And I want to be really clear with our listeners that most of these STERBs, short-term energy relieving behaviors, in moderation are fine. And some of them are healthy. Like we have to eat, right? And we have to exercise. But when you're eating to feel better, when you're overeating, when you're exercising 6 hours a day to keep yourself busy, then it becomes a dangerous situation. So most of these are fine in moderation. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting to look back. Like if I look back over my life and some of the things I've engaged in, one of the first things I think about is COVID because it's really um, still present in all of our minds. And I remember, like, I was working as a nurse, and one day I'd be in the clinic, and the next day they'd be like, "Oh no, we all have to work from home." And it was constant chaos. Nobody knew what to expect. And I remember coming home, and it would be like, and I would have a couple glasses of wine, and it was like we didn't know, are we going to be alive tomorrow? Is our family going to be alive? Are we going to lose friends? And it was like a perfect way to just kind of numb ourselves and stop thinking about it. But it didn't help the grief that was there. It was just, like you said, very short term.
Yeah, COVID is definitely a very good example of that. I know um, for us, being military, we kind of had to go by a few stricter rules at that time where, if we weren't allowed to leave kind of our town. We couldn't go out of the area. We were mandated to have to wear the masks, which in itself brought panic and fear because it's like, well, what can happen? And
Mhm.
I know on our side, we completely withdrew and stayed in our home, and we didn't feel comfortable or safe anywhere else anymore. And that came down from, every angle. We didn't have any way to do it. And so one for us definitely became food, especially because, we came up with DoorDash and all these things where you can have food just brought right to you and you don't have to go get it. And food became a huge one for us as to, oh my gosh, I'm feeling anxious or worried or excited. Like, okay, let's get some ice cream. And at the time, we didn't recognize how unhealthy it was, until you gain those pounds and stuff and try to wonder, well, where did they come from? I haven't been doing, yeah, 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 you have. Um, but we used it also as a learning technique again with our kids to show them the things that we can do that even though we're supposed to do, like you said, eating, can become
Mhm.
unhealthy when we're using it kind of incorrectly or as a tool to help us emotionally. Um, so we've actually turned it kind of into a joke. So if, mom's had a bad day or something, I'm like, oh, I could use some cheese balls. The kids all laugh and they're like, oh, yeah, they understand now the emotional connection with that. And so they will even mention it themselves, like, oh, yeah, it was a stressful day, or driving, especially in bad weather or something. Oh, can we go get ice cream? Can we go do this? So, I mean,
Mhm.
it becomes a tool to kind of help educationally with the kids too, is to show them those unhealthy connections and kind of teach them, okay, well, what better ways could we do this? Could we go out and go for a walk? Even if we're not feeling safe in a certain place or something like that, we can drive somewhere to the gym and go in, or go and walk the track, or it's just, I love that we can have these conversations like about STERBs, because everything, to be honest, I think can be used either in that unhealthy manner or in a healthy manner. It's really up to us and how we choose to use it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's something that's coming up in my mind that I want to mention because I think a lot of people can relate to this is many of my clients come to me, and when we talk about STERBs, they realize that in the past they've used sex as a STERB. And a lot of times that comes from feeling not good enough, unwanted, abandoned earlier in life. And so, you know, having that connection with somebody, even if it's a one night stand or whatever, they still in some way feel like it's helping them feel wanted or loved, but really it's just numbing all those emotions deep inside. And so I bring that up because oftentimes we don't think of that one, but it's more prevalent in society than I think is talked about.
Oh, absolutely. I know on a personal level, in my younger years, that was one that I turned to because, if a failed relationship occurred, well, fine, I'll just go find a new one. Somebody else will, give me the, oh, you look beautiful and everything that I need. Again, it might not last, but okay, there's another one. There's
Hmm.
always some way to make me feel better moving on to somebody else, but truthfully, that was never the answer. It never truly
Right.
made me feel whole.
Yeah. And, kind of what you alluded to earlier is that once we go down this path of using one of these STERBs, like we have to use it more and more and more frequently
Hmm.
because the impact, the benefit, the numbing kind of wears off. So it's just like when you're addicted to alcohol or drugs, you have to start using that drug more frequently and at higher doses to get the same effect.
Yeah, and unfortunately, especially with those more addictive types like the alcohol, the drugs, the sex, sometimes it does take a little bit more help to get off of some of those STERBs because they do become so super addictive. Even internet in this day and age, I mean, on the terms of sex, there's still porn and things like that that people go to, and it is such an addiction that a lot of people don't think they can live without it anymore.
Right.
So I
Well,
do want to challenge our listeners, if you do have any of those super extreme, not that it's a bad thing, but something that's really weighing you down and you don't feel like you can get out of it on your own, reach out for help. There are people, there are facilities to help with this kind of stuff. You are never alone.
yeah, that's so true. Because we don't want anybody to continue suffering and, thinking that there isn't a different way to live, because there certainly is. And I think one of the things that you and I, because we talked about this before we started this podcast, wanted to get across is that what we want people to realize is when you're engaging in one of these behaviors, and really sit down and take a look at your life and write down those STERBs that you've used. Like, think about your first love and when you were heartbroken and it ended, what were you doing to feel better? Because most of us, at least earlier in life, don't have the tools that are healthy. So we're doing anything to feel better. So what were those things? And then look at other different times in your life. Just write them down. And it's not about beating yourself up. It's just about having that insight. And so, like we talked about, you can make a choice the next time you're experiencing emotional pain. Like, do I want to try and numb myself? Like, or do I want to go out in the woods and take a nice hike and take some deep breaths or reach out to a friend, get some support? Because I think when we're doing things unknowingly, it can be a really slippery slope.
Mhm.
But when we can recognize why we're doing something, that's really the first step to making a change.
And once we recognize that thing that we would like to change, having the courage to even mentally kind of make that change yourself is a huge step. Like, give yourself so many kudos for being able to a recognize that you need to change, and b step up and ask for help or even make some of the changes yourself. Like you said with alcohol, okay, well, if I'm feeling anxious and like I need a drink to calm me, maybe today I'll go to the gym and walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. Even just
Exactly.
that small of a change could get a new habit started and make you feel just as good.
Mhm. Well, and I think another thing that's really important is having somebody that's like an accountability partner. Somebody you can reach out to and be like, I'm having a really hard day, and all I want to do is sit on the couch and eat all kinds of unhealthy snacks and scroll social media and have a few drinks.
Mhm.
If there's somebody you can reach out to that will listen and support you and not judge you, but just be there, like, tell me what's going on. Let's talk about what's really going on and why you want to engage in these things. That can make a huge shift in your life.
Absolutely. And again, both Dawn and I are more than willing to be that kind of accountability for you, because we do know how lonely it can get when you get down into these dark spaces and you don't feel like anybody will be that accountability person for you.
Yeah. And if you have never learned or been taught, how to be emotionally honest or that it's safe, you know, that's when it's super easy to fall into these patterns. these unhealthy patterns because we want to feel better, but we don't feel safe talking about what's going on. And we've been taught to be strong and just keep moving forward. But that's not realistic. I mean, physically, we can keep moving forward, but emotionally, that doesn't do anything to our heart. I mean, our heart is still hurting. And so, how are we going to get rid of that pain in there? It's not like we can just extract it like a surgery. And so, we want numb it. And unfortunately, by numbing our pain, it just prolongs it. And then it affects all the different aspects of our life and makes it hard for us to navigate relationships.
Yeah, it can get so compounded and so built up in there that you literally get to kind of that bottoming out point where you have lost everything. You feel nothing. You don't feel like you have anything in life. You don't have anybody. And
Mhm.
I really struggle seeing so many people get to that point. I think we kind of overlook that while most of the people that are around us, our support group, our friends, our family, they won't listen to us, they won't give us that healthy space. It is truly important to find at least that one person that you can at least hold a safe conversation with
Mhm.
and build from there. I mean, even if you can, like you mentioned, writing things down, journaling is one of those things I think that a lot of people overlook and, oh, well, it's stupid. I shouldn't have to do it that way. But that's such a great way for us to be honest with ourselves and get out some of those feelings that we don't feel we have a safe place to vent.
Yeah, I would agree. And one other thing is, I want people to realize just because you engage in STERBs, that's not a weakness. Every single one of us has STERBs. Even Janna and I, to this day, and we do this work, we still have STERBs and we know it and it's okay. But we can recognize, oh, well, maybe I'm doing this because I don't want to feel right now. And then we have the tools to process our pain. So we make different choices moving forward. But not all of us have those tools. But that's okay because we can learn them. So looking at it as this isn't a weakness, like I'm having the courage to actually reflect back on my life and reflect at my behaviors today. And that's a strength.
I think we can use that kind of in everything grief related for us. Anything we're going through, it should never be considered any kind of a weakness. Like look at all of the stuff that you've overcome and how you survived to get where you are today. Like congratulations. Like even if it was bad, even if it was a sturb that you're not proud of, that's okay. It still brought you to where you are today and I'm proud of you for having that willpower and that strength to get here and to keep moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. It's really important to believe in yourself and realize that I know we've mentioned this many times on this podcast, but you're not your story from the past. It's helped you become who you are today, but you can be anybody you want today. And I believe in you. I believe that you can thrive and that you can find joy again. But we have to be able to sit with these emotions that come from these difficult experiences in life and learn ways to process them so that we don't carry it around anymore.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's uncomfortable having to take that step to sit in those emotions and learn how to process them. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. It's hard, but it's so worth it coming out on the other side. And I know every one of you can do it too. I want to be that cheerleader for you and tell you that just taking one step in the right direction, whether it be go outside, take a deep breath, just anything for you to help bring you joy, it's the right step in the right direction. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you deserve to have a happy life. It doesn't matter what has happened in the past. You deserve to find that joy again and to have the beautiful relationships that you dream about. You don't have to be stuck. So reach out if you want any support from us, or we have helpful resources on our websites as well. But we just want you to feel like you're supported and you're not alone. And as always, if you have any thoughts or questions, please send them to us or put them in the comments below, and we will see you or talk to you next week. Thanks,
Thanks. We'll see
everyone.
you next week.